I can guarantee this is probably going to be my favorite video this month. Hey, I'm Amy and welcome back to the Horror Checklist, a month long of horror-themed, centric, Halloween-ish movies and videos. I don't know exactly. It's not all horror and it's not all scary, but I'm very excited for this video today because I haven't done a Why I Love in a long time, and I thought, why not better to do a Why I Love than on one of my absolute favorite subjects of all time, the slasher. And you probably saw in my September haul this book. This is Going to Pieces, The Rise and Fall of the Slasher Film from 1978 to 1986. I did a lot of research for this episode from the first chapter of this book. You can probably tell I highlighted, I don't know if it'll focus or if it's too bright, but I highlighted and did a lot of annotations in this book and I absolutely love it. So I will be quoting a couple things from here at some point probably. Slashers are some of my favorite horror films. Actually, they are my favorite horror films, followed by a lot of zombie films. So let us get down to business. It'll seem like this is kind of a top 5 episode, but I'm not going to be like counting down. These reasons aren't in any particular order of why I love slashers. It's just a lot of reasons why I and so many other people probably really love slashers. If you have any different opinions, let me know in the comments down below because I would love to know why you love slasher movies or why you love any other kind of horror movie, because there are particular horror movies that I do not want to watch ever again or ever watch in general, but that is my personal preference. There are just genres of film that I don't like to watch anyways. So let me know what your favorite subgenre of horror film is in the comments down below and why you love it so much or why you love slasher films. Before I really do get started though, I think I should give a little bit of a definition of what a slasher is as told by the author Adam Rockoff. I will read a basic description of what he said from the book because I feel like that's the best way. And yes, I have used my books like this. Get over it. What Adam says a slasher film is a subgenre of horror movies which share similar formal and stylistic elements and adhere to a fairly rigid paradigm while a child is crying outside my door. Very, very fun. This is why I don't want children. Are they dying? Now are they done? Okay, well, where was I? They usually adhere to things like the weapon of choice for the killer, and pretty much always no guns, the style of special effects, and of course, the final girl. And this is one of the reasons why I love slashers so much, because you pretty much know what you're getting going into it. As someone who never really liked horror movies up until the last, let's say, 5 or 6 years, slashers were a very easy way for me to get into the genre because I am the kind of person that will research what happens in a movie before going into it. Well, not any movie, but like a horror movie, going into it because I don't want to be scared. But having this structure that the horror movies followed, I knew what I was getting into it, and I didn't have to research or really dig deep into what the film was going to be about, and I could enjoy myself more while watching it because I knew that there were these certain things that were going to happen and it didn't make me as scared. It kind of put this barrier up that still helped me enjoy the film. And the funny thing about slashers is some of the reasons why a lot of people dislike them is because they can be predictable, which I can understand that. Most movies, when they are predictable, I'm not a huge fan of them, but with slashers, it's a little bit different because it is more for fun. And people also dislike slashers because they are very bloody and disgusting. They are kind of gratuitous in the fact that a lot of the times the victims of the slasher killer are teens getting killed because they are having sex and doing drugs and all of that kind of stuff. It can have a looser structure, very contrary to this rigid paradigm that slashers usually have. Each slasher has its own individualistic style. Each killer has their own unique weapon, like Michael Myers picks up any sharp knife or instrument that he can find, and Freddy, of course, has his finger knives. Each killer has their own location in which they hunt, like Camp Crystal Lake for Jason Voorhees and, of course, his mother in the first Friday the 13th. And Freddy haunts people's dreams, and that's where he kills them, and Michael, of course, kills people in Haddonfield. There is usually a unique backstory to each killer and why they choose their victims. I'm going to keep bringing up Freddy Krueger because Nightmare is one of my favorite slasher films. His victims are all the children of the parents who burned him alive, so he's going after those victims. And of course, with Jason, a lot of his victims are just teens who wandered into Camp Crystal Lake. And of course, each slasher has a different way that it is told. A lot of the slasher films use the POV or point of view technique to give a more suspenseful feel and increase the tension, like in the opening scene of Halloween.
Look, Judy, it's really late. I gotta go.
Will you call me tomorrow?
Yeah, sure.
Promise?
Yeah.
As mentioned before, weapons are another reason why I love slashers so much. I know that's kind of weird. It's a weird reason to like it, but I like that the slashers' weapons of choice are not guns. They are usually something that makes it feel a little bit more intimate with each kill. Of course, it sounds so weird and gross, but using a weapon like a gun is too easy and it gets very boring, which is why I find action movies kind of boring at some points. Even though there are fast cuts and a lot of loud noises, it just gets a little bit too messy with an action movie and guns. It makes it more boring to have a gun because it is such a long distance tool to kill their victims, where with the weapons that most slashers use, you don't get scared necessarily of the slow moving bloodthirsty killer behind you. You get more scared of how they are going to kill you because they have to get close to you, they have to see you, you look them in the eye when they kill you. They are right there on top of you. Both of these things add to a sort of subduedness because there aren't these loud noises and very easy instant kills. Practical effects are a really great hallmark of a slasher film as well, especially these slasher films that came up in the 70s and 80s, heralded by Tom Savini, especially in the 80s with the Friday the 13th franchise. Practical effects are some of my favorite effects in all of cinema. They always look a lot more realistic than some of the CGI effects, and I think one of the reasons why I love old films so much, especially the silent movies, they do some really great practical special effects because they have to do the effects in camera or overlaid on top of the celluloid wall editing that make it look so much more real than any CGI. And although it sounds very weird, slasher films are hilarious. I absolutely love the fact that the teens are so stupid, and because it's something that you wouldn't do when you're being chased by a killer in real life, the dumb decisions that they make it even more fun to watch and make fun of. Even though you love the movie, it's still a great time to just sit there, watch, and make fun of all of the stupid choices that the characters make. Slasher films also feed a sense of rebellion. Not because of what happens in the film, but because slasher films and pretty much all horror films in general are looked down upon by the mainstream media. A lot of people will do the exact opposite of what you tell them to do just because you tell them not to do something. So seeing a horror film and being told not to see it makes people want to go see it even more. This sense of rebellion also kind of feeds into the fact that watching these horror movies can release some pent-up aggression and anger. Viewers can often funnel their feelings and aggression through the killer and not end up doing some of the things that you would think that they would want to do with this pent-up aggression and anger. Things like a lot of the mass shootings that have been happening more and more recently, and just violence in general, have been disproven that horror films and video games are not the cause of this. Watching a horror film or watching a slasher film or even an action film, even though it can be looked at as spurring on these violent acts, it really is a way to get your aggression and your anger out in a vicarious nature without hurting or harming anybody. And finally, and probably my favorite reason, is the final girl. This is definitely not because of the trope of
the good girl is the one that lives and the promiscuous one is the one that dies.
Because quite often, and it is quoted or mentioned in this quite a bit, not all of the promiscuous girls die, and not all of the safe and abstinent girls live. Slasher killers will kill with reckless abandon when it comes to what they are searching for. The final girl is a very specific character who gets to fight the killer and gets to win and gets to show this very strong heroine to audiences. They are strong and relatable and empowering for young women. Something I wish that, had I known that this was a thing when I was younger, I probably would have watched slashers a lot more or gotten into slashers a lot younger. Because this shows that women can be the hero and they don't need to be saved by a man. But those are all the reasons why I love slashers. Let me know in the comments down below why you love slashers, as well as any other horror movies. Why do you love your favorite subgenre of horror, or I mean just horror movies in general? Let me know in the comments down below. But thank you guys so much for watching. I really truly do appreciate you, whoever you are, and let me know who you are in the comments down below, and let's be friends. If you enjoyed this, leave a like and subscribe if you're new, because I love talking about things, movies, TV shows, film making, mystery, all the fun stuff, and I'll see you next time. Bye!